What if every time you bought food, you were also building a more peaceful world? It sounds pretty out there, I know, but today we're diving into an economic model that's designed to do exactly that. We're going to break down how this system aims to connect your everyday spending directly to global security, creating peace through profit. Let's get right into it. So before we can really get the solution, we've got to understand the problem, right? The source material frames this whole thing as a huge market dislocation, basically saying that our current economic systems are failing us in some really fundamental ways. And it really boils down to these three core issues. First up, there's financial insecurity. That feeling that we're totally disconnected from how wealth is actually made. Then there are nutritional deficits. So many communities just don't have access to good, healthy food. And finally, there's this economic disconnection, where the money we spend just sort of vanishes into these complex systems we can't see. The whole idea behind this GENII ecosystem we're looking at is to tackle all three of these head-on.
Okay, so how do you fix a system like that? A system that just pushes risk away and lets value leak out everywhere? Well, according to this plan, you don't try to patch it. You build a completely new engine from the ground up, one that's designed to actually keep the value inside and turn our spending directly into real, tangible assets.
And what's really cool is how they visualized this whole engine. It's basically a simple, powerful loop. When you spend money, it doesn't just disappear. Instead, it flows right into this ecosystem, which then turns it into actual physical assets. We're talking about land. And that land, in turn, generates more value in returns, which then flow back to make the whole system stronger. It's a completely integrated land-backed economic model.
Let's make that even simpler, though. It really just comes down to 3 easy steps. Step 1, you buy something. Step 2, a chunk of that money is automatically, algorithmically put into an investment fund. And step 3, that fund goes out and buys tangible land, turning a simple purchase into permanent equity. That's it. Simple, direct, and honestly, pretty powerful.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how does this engine actually, run? Let's get into the mechanics of it. And we'll start with the actual product that fuels this entire system.
And here it is. The physical starting point for this whole thing is called the BarNess Miracle Bar. It's a 110-gram, 400-calorie nutritional bar. It's shelf-stable for months, made from really simple stuff like oats, dates, and nuts. And this little bar, this is the catalyst that kicks off that whole consumer-to-asset conversion process.
And this number? This is the key, 20%. For every single Miracle Bar that's sold, exactly 20% of that sale gets automatically funneled into an investment fund. This isn't just some vague promise. It's a hard-coded rule of the entire ecosystem.
Now, the system scales this whole idea up with something they call the 24K treasure chest. It's a box with 60 of these Miracle Bars, adding up to a grand total of 24,000 kilocalories. This is basically designed to be a standardized unit of food security, enough to give one adult a solid food supply for 2 whole weeks.
Now this right here, this is where that whole path to peace idea really starts to click into place. See, this isn't just about business, it's a dual-purpose model. The source documents state that a full 50%, half of all the bars they ever make, are dedicated to a mission to end hunger. So the commercial success is literally baked into the social impact right from the very start.
So where does that 20% actually go? Well, it's managed by 2 separate but connected groups, and the sources use a really great analogy for this. You've got AI AgriWealth, which they call the circulatory system. That's the active fund that's pumping capital and keeping everything flowing. And then you have the BarNess Q Ion REIT, which is the skeletal structure. That's the real estate trust that gives everything a solid foundation by buying and holding the actual land. One creates flow, the other creates permanence.
And what's overseeing this whole process? An advanced AI they call GENII. It stands for Generative Intentional Intelligence and is described as the ecosystem's central nervous system, built around a core do-no-harm principle. Its whole job is to optimize everything, from the supply chain to investments, to make sure the hunt for profit always stays aligned with the ethical goal of what the source calls guilt-free progress.
And to make sure that alignment never, ever breaks, GEMINI runs on something called the Keep Us Safety Protocol. It's got 3 super simple, non-negotiable rules. 1, do no harm. That's the absolute first filter for everything. 2, do good. Every single action has to add real value. And 3, if you're unsure, you ask. That's the Aikido protocol, which just means any gray area has to be sorted out through dialogue. These are the ethical guardrails for the whole show.
So with all the mechanics in place, the vision here goes global.
The sources lay out a really clear step-by-step blueprint to take this model from just a concept all the way to a worldwide reality.
And the scale of this whole thing is, well, it's staggering. We are talking about an operational baseline of 2 million meals produced every single day. And the documents are really clear on this. This isn't some pie-in-the-sky target. This is the planned output for Phase 3 of the rollout.
This roadmap here shows exactly how they plan to get to that massive number. It's a 4-phase strategy. Phase 1 kicks off in Canada, locking down the first bit of funding and land. Phase 2 moves over to the UAE to build out the financial and manufacturing muscle. Phase 3 is mass production. That's when they hit that 2 million barrel a day baseline. And finally, Phase 4, which they call Royal Oasis, is where the whole vision really comes to life.
So what does that final phase even look like? Well, it's the culmination of everything, creating what the source calls sanctuary QILL zones. You can think of them as these amazing ecotourism and education destinations, all built on the very land that the system has purchased. The dream is for them to become these self-sustaining communities all about permaculture, wellness, and learning, the physical proof of a peaceful, asset-backed economy.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. Why does a model like this even matter? Well, it's all about creating a system that's incredibly resilient. A system where profit and purpose aren't just getting along, they're actually making each other stronger. The entire ecosystem is designed to be this self-powering engine, what they call a 5-element flywheel. It all starts with the land assets as the solid foundation. That's then powered by the economic driver, the product sales. This then leads to building these experiential destinations, which in turn builds a real community, and the whole thing is guided by this ethical framework. Each part just strengthens all the others, creating this incredible value-multiplying cycle. You know, the sources give us one last, really powerful analogy to lock this all in. Think of the whole system as a self-watering garden. The profit from sales, that's the water. But instead of just evaporating, it gets captured to grow the roots. That's the land equity held by the trust. And those strong roots then produce more and more fruit, which is the nutritional security and community stability. So the more the garden profits, the healthier and more peaceful the entire environment becomes. Which brings us all the way back to that huge, provocative question at the very heart of this project. If you can directly tackle the root causes of conflict, things like financial and food insecurity, and if you build a system where profit is literally hardwired to purpose, can an economy actually be engineered for peace? Well, based on this material, the people who designed this system, they believe the answer is a definitive yes.